Oscar week is here. Confirmed?
Yes, confirmed.
Can we officially say that? We've been sitting on that for a little bit now.
Yes, this is live breaking news, a brunch exclusive. Oscars this Sunday.
This is one that actually, I'm going to use a film term. We've had this episode in the can
Nice.
for a while. We're recording this in early November. Today is November 3rd, so we're on the third day of November. Oscar nominees, not yet out. We have our projections, though. We made our own projections, and we searched out some like Entertainment Tonight lists, and we've put together roughly what we think the Oscars are going to be.
We have our projection model, the brunch projection model, and we're pretty confident in it that it is going to.
I'm not. I'm rooting for all hell to break loose. I'm rooting for everything to be wrong. I'm rooting for people to see like. I'll tell you what. Once we get to the part where we're like, hey, best picture, Ford versus Ferrari, they're gonna be like, these aren't the real nominees. Way to fuck up.
Yeah, that one I'm not totally confident
in. But these are the Oscars are this week. Do you want a little Quentin Tarantino twist?
Yep.
We're live. Today we're on the 5th day of February. We're recording this. I was gonna tweet this the other day, but I was like, you know what, DJ, be humble. We've been grinding regarding the Oscars.
We haven't really, in terms of just, exhausting ourselves, but we've been putting out fucking content,
We've been putting out content, and I've loved every minute of it.
Absolutely.
I've been listening to
I've been exhausted in
episodes.
every other aspect of my life, and I just want to die, but, we've put out probably the most content for the Oscars as we have ever. And it's been like a reprieve for me. It's been the most enjoyable thing.
I completely agree. It's been what I've looked for. Not that we both don't always look forward to doing brunch and stuff, but sometimes it'll be like middle of the day or middle of the week, and we got to match up our schedules, and it'll be this crazy thing. These Oscar things, we've had to meet like a bunch of times to knock these out, and we've both been in unbelievable moods, super happy to have the break from whatever else we're doing to talk about these things. And I guess it shows that we're not necessarily good movie guys. We got KenJac on today. It was a bit of a humbling experience.
Great movie guy.
Yes, great movie guy. But I've said this before, I like our movie talk because we're kind of talking each other into, hey, is this right? Is this I got a good one. I took this away from it. Did you?
Honestly, KenJac is a great movie guy, and today was an eye-opening experience because a lot of his takes fall in line with my takes, and that feels validating to me because he's so much smarter than I am.
For sure. There were a few moments where he said something that we were like, yo.
I was like, I've been trying to say that for 6 months, and I just couldn't find the words to say it.
Yeah. What did he say that? He said that about, I forget. Oh, was it the Roger Deakins, Sam Mendes point?
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got KenJac on. We're going to go blow by blow with all the nominees and then just kick around some generic other stuff. It was an incredibly on-topic conversation. We really didn't meander too much.
No.
We got into some Danny Elfman, Ludwig Göransson detours, but is that really a detour? I think that
especially at the end,
everybody
it was
wants
at the
to hear
end.
about
So
Ludwig Göransson,
That's
and
true.
everybody wants some fun little factoids about Danny Elfman. So what else did we not hit with him? I guess just generally previewing what the night is going to be. Randy Newman's going to perform. I just looked at the performers. I was like, I don't know who any of these performers are. What's going to happen? I know that Billie Eilish is performing, and people are mad at her for it or something. People are mad at Billie Eilish this week.
She's not performing at the Oscars, is she?
Yeah.
Is it because James Bond?
Billie Eilish to perform at 2020 Oscars.
You're just totally making that up.
I'll tell you what, if I were making up a headline, that would have been a very believable one. Billie Eilish to perform. How about this? See if I'm making this up. Billie Eilish will take to the Oscars 2020 stage for a special performance.
I don't know if I believe you, but
I think that there is. It says it was confirmed she will not be singing the title track to the upcoming James Bond film, but she will be performing. And
because Bad Guy. Is she
that?
Bombshell?
Oh, Bombshell.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fair enough. But
are you coming around on Billie Eilish yet?
no.
I'm starting to.
I think she's fine. Like I don't dislike her. It's just like I don't necessarily get it.
I've come around on Billie Eilish, and now I'm almost entering the territory where like I borderline ride for Billie Eilish. Which that's a...
Didn't see that coming. But I mean, I should have because everything that you ever say on Brunch.
Like.
Yeah. No, honestly, for me, maybe this makes me a snob. Mm-hmm. The Oscars, man, it's about the movies.
Can you just make it about the movies?
It's the movie's biggest night.
We forgot to hit this with KenJac, the big odds on whether or not something is referred to as a love letter.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
We have to describe this episode as a DJ
love letter
Pete
to the Oscars.
And KenJac give their love letter... pen their love letter to the Oscars.
Yeah, no, like dead serious. I think that a big reason why we've had so much fun doing the reviews and stuff this year is because the movies have just been so fucking good this year.
Right, I want to talk about all of them.
And
even the movies that I didn't think deserved to be nominated for Best Picture.
Got stuff to say about them.
Still a fun conversation to talk about Ford versus Ferrari. Still a very stimulating conversation to have about the
rough around the
Irishman.
edges Brits.
They got a rough around the edges Brit. There's a rough around the edges Yank in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. There's a rough around the edges family in Parasite. This is a real rough around the edges year for movies, and this is our love letter to it. So let's get to KenJac and break all this stuff down. We're also going to consolidate all of our individual movie reviews into one episode. So we'll put out a tweet or something that will have a link to this episode, which is going to hit Best Picture, Actor, Actress, Supporting, Director. We got into Screenplay. We got into Score. We got into Best Original Song. So we really hit a lot of things, and also dipped into for a second here and there things like costume design and cinematography and how those might influence other categories. So I really think that we hit everything we should have with KenJac.
Also, later in this week, we're going to put out like graphics and stuff with our scores on each of the 9 Best Picture categories. I don't know if we're going to do stuff with some of the lesser categories, but those will for sure be out there, and we'll have some stuff this weekend too, like during the Oscars.
Yeah, something that we hit in here, we hit our all. What is it, like all non-nominated or like all underrated teams? Mm-hmm. So like 5 things that weren't nominated for anything that we loved. We also kicked around, which I thought was an interesting conversation, who had the best year. That's something that kind of came up organically in the conversation that I think that might be worth a graphic, because when you think of people like Pew, like ScarJo, like Laura Dern, this was a big year for
like doing multiple
dominance
stuff.
For dominance, right? Being nominated in multiple things. So we're going to have all that stuff. It's not, what was the one we did a few years ago? Every time Shape of Water won, we put out something that said, which actor was it that we said won an Oscar? You know what I'm saying?
No.
Oh, Michael Stuhlbarg. Because he was in Shape of Water and he was in Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
Right? So every time one of those things won, we were like, Stuhlbarg does it again.
It's won 6 Oscars.
And Stuhlbarg is cleaning up, folks.
That was great.
That was a bit that worked perfectly, because I think like the first like 3 or 4 things were that were announced were Stuhlbarg projects. Yes. Stuhlbarg, you son of a bitch. You've done it again. We got to get Michael Stuhlbarg on. For now, we'll talk to KenJac. Hi, KenJac.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Folks, that's KenJac.
It is. Jack Kennedy.
Jack Kennedy, a.k.a.
The Jack Kennedy Experiment.
A.k.a. I heard your real name is Jack. KenJac, do you know that in The Irishman, there's a title card for a title that's not the title of the movie?
No, but I heard you paint houses.
Oh!
That's what we call a callback right there.
That's just like your classic LCP type of, like, this guy's seen a movie, you know? It's pretty good. Before we jump into the Oscars and everything, want to quickly kind of take your temperature for the Brunch listeners who might not also be LCP listeners. Just going to throw out a few movies that have meant a lot to Brunch and see where you stand on it. Midsommar.
I think we're going to talk a little bit about Midsommar later on in this podcast right here, because I think we're going to talk a little bit about snubs, right?
Yes.
So that should give you a barometer on how I feel about it. I feel very highly about it.
Cool. Cold Pursuit.
Cold Pursuit, I think, goes underrated from 2019 among some of the better action movies.
Hell yeah.
Interesting.
Ready or Not.
Ready or Not. That one, I really liked it conceptually. I think that the actual idea of it was really cool, but maybe the execution was a little flawed. Did like that lead actress quite a bit. I always forget her name.
Yeah.
How did you feel about Hobbs and Shaw? That was one that we differed on.
Hobbs and Shaw, that is a movie you need to take take it for what it is, right? Hobbs and Shaw. And if you do, you enjoy it a lot. But otherwise, if you try and take it too seriously, I understand how you could dislike it, but I take it as this movie franchise started with a bunch of guys trying to steal Blu-ray players or whatever in 2000, and it now graduated to them saving the world every single movie. So in that respect, I liked Hobbs and Shaw. But as far as a competently made movie goes, maybe not so great.
Countdown. This is going to be the whole podcast.
Just Countdown. Damn.
That's the one with the app?
Yeah, it's the one with the app that counts down until you're going to die. Again, another interesting idea, but almost like a dumb Black Mirror episode that wouldn't have probably even aired.
Okay.
This is also the first time that you've been on the podcast since DJ declared you public enemy number one of the podcast.
That's true. We had a diss track back and forth. I hadn't even thought about that when we got
first
for
time.
This.
Yeah, we did the John Cena take on one, which was, I'm just going to say, not to toot my own horn, the John Cena diss track was absolutely awesome.
You guys had a great diss track. So when we do ideas that are Pete's ideas, they're accessible and kind of
bad.
Everyone can understand them. When we do DJ ideas, they're very specific, and the goal is hey, if 4 people understand it, it's going to be the funniest thing in the world for those 4 people. Did you understand that our counter to you saying, "Did you even see it?" was an entire diss track of us not saying anything specific enough to confirm that we'd seen the movie? All we talked about was I bought a ticket.
No, yes, absolutely. And see, that's exactly what my whole personal brand is about, is extremely eclectic references that 2 people understand and think are funny, and everyone else is you're an asshole. So I very much appreciated it.
I recorded my parts for that at work because yours came out during the day, and we wanted to have something the next morning, but I was at work, so I was in a conference room in the corner covering my mic as I was yelling fucking LCB. Good times.
I think that was between when we were the number 1 unaffiliated podcast ever and working at Barstool. So I was very unemployed and able to record in the middle of the day. So that was much easier for me than you, I understand.
That was amazing. So who had verses on that? Was that just you, and was Jeff not on that?
I think it was just me and Trill, and I think I wrote all the lyrics, and then Trill wrote the hook.
Yeah, Trill had the hook.
Yeah. That's the one that it even had full frontal dong.
Yeah. Yes, full frontal dong. Yes. Yeah.
Elsewood, blockers is good and brunch is wrong. That was
that's a bar. That's a bar.
This is good. Other thing is bad.
Yes, I mean,
time.
I mean, you had the dagger on that one too. It was you said your podcast is like your namesake. It's just an excuse to drink.
That was one that I wrote where I was like, this is gonna be the dagger from the diss. And boy, did it hit. Oh, I love that one.
My favorite line was, first I got in the car, then I drove to the theater, took my movie pass card, got a ticket for Peter. That is confirming, we've seen the movie. Roasted. Right. In your face. I purchased a ticket to a movie.
Also confirms that diss track was made in 2018 because Movie Pass was still a thing.
It's true.
Oh yeah, we definitely had to date the diss track by putting Movie Pass in it. We were so into Movie Pass. Once Movie Pass folded, I don't even know if it folded. It had to have. But once we moved away from Movie Pass, we lost half of our content. Mm-hmm. For 2 years, our content was just all Thunder, and then it was Movie Pass. And actually, in the diss track samples Thunder, so that was also a good little overlap. But yeah, man, we gotta get more fights more often. It brings I think the fans end up winning. They get all this good music.
Yes, exactly. They're the number one winners because they get to see all like the diss track beefs. But now we're basically like Meek and Drake right now. We're like everyone's like, oh, they'll never get along. Now look at us. We're all friends.
Yeah, it's true.
Our very real beef that was very, very serious is now gone.
I remember, when my mom called me the next day, like her voice was all shaking, and she was like, "Are you okay? Are you safe?" And I was like, "I'm handling it. Okay, we're handling it. We're gonna be Pete. I don't know if Pete's gonna be okay." But
it was a rough ride for me, but we got through it.
We all got through it. We're gonna go beat by beat on the big nominees. Like, I guess we'll hit on cinematography because I think there's an important tie-in to Best Director with cinematography. But generally, we'll do like Best Picture, actor, actress, actor, as the woman who pissed off Quentin Tarantino said when asking about Margot Robbie. We're gonna do Best Actor, Best Actress, et cetera, et cetera. But we want to start with our all underrated teams, which is just 5 things that weren't nominated for anything. So
completely shut out.
Right, completely shut out. Last year, I feel like last year's list would have had more interesting ones. Like last year, I would have put Blake Lively for A Simple Favor in there. Yeah. She got no love for anything. I thought she was great, but KenJac, if you got yours, you want to rattle off 5 things that got no love that either deserved it or hold a special place in your heart.
Sure. So I have a really huge list on this. I think just as far as movies this year that probably should have gotten some sort of love in some, even if it's technical categories, whatever. But I think my 5 through 1, number 5 would be Uncut Gems. I think at least like something screenwriting for original screenplay, because that's something that the Safdie brothers worked on for 10 years. And I really do think that it was like wonderfully put together. It's like an hour and a half long anxiety attack that it's a very difficult sort of feeling to get across through a film medium. And I think they did that wonderfully. My number 4 would probably be Last Black Man in San Francisco, which got zilch, which is absurd.
Wild.
Absolutely absurd. Amazing performances across the board. Great story and just wonderfully told. Number 3, Dolomite is My Name. I mean, Eddie Murphy, man. I feel like I haven't seen him since like Meet Dave. Really, Tower Heist. I think it was the last movie I saw with Eddie Murphy, and he's so fucking good in this. And this is like, Dolomite tells a story that like I don't think a lot of people would know otherwise, right? Like blaxploitation stuff kind of gets forgotten about throughout cinema history, and it's really important. And like Rudy Ray Moore is like a really important kind of guy in cinema's history. My number 2, we talked about a second ago, Midsommar. Yeah. I don't understand how it didn't get score, it didn't get cinematography, it didn't get like editing. It should have had something, man. That was absurd to me. And then my number 1 is The Farewell. The Farewell getting shut out is just so stupid to me. I
didn't even think about The Farewell not getting anything. We just kicked around like, how did Awkwafina not get nominated? But holy smokes, you're right. I didn't even consider that The Farewell didn't get any noms. Pete, what you got?
So I got number 1 for me is Peanut Butter Falcon. That's like one of my favorite movies of the year. And I knew that it probably wasn't going to get anything, but it's something that I hold near and dear to my heart. So that's on my list. Uncut Gems for all the reasons that KenJac laid out. Midsommar, agreed. I also have The Farewell, Last Black Man in San Francisco. So the list is pretty similar, but I will also add Booksmart onto that list. I think that Booksmart, really, I don't know what the hell it would actually be nominated for here, but I don't want to call it underrated because it got a ton of love this year. That movie is awesome.
Best soundtrack it should have got. It had a dope ass soundtrack.
It's true.
They don't do a best soundtrack though, right? They just do best original score.
Yeah, no soundtrack. That should get some love. We should make that separate award.
You're right, that'd be dope. Like imagine Rostam and like Wes from Rah Rah Riot going up on stage at the Oscars, being like, "Yo, closing in on this EGOT, motherfuckers." That would rule.
Exactly.
The Booksmart had the best pervert bit. Maybe that should be a new category at the Oscars.
What was that?
The pervert bit,
what
where
was that?
They get into the guy's car that they think is their Uber driver.
Ah, yes.
And then they end up seeing his poster at the police station at the end of the movie.
I'll tell you what, this was controversial. I just wasn't as big on Booksmart and Good Boys as everybody else. It was. I'm glad that the same movie is being made in different ways, but it still felt like the same movie to me. I think that there were parts of Booksmart that were like way funnier than parts of Superbad, but having seen all those movies a bajillion times, I wasn't as blown away maybe as some other people were. but they were solid movies. My number one, Uncut Gems. Number two, you want to really talk about a movie that no one made a peep about after. I feel like its first few days, everyone was like, "Holy shit, this is great!" And there was silence. Is Queen and Slim, which I love. Queen and Slim was like definitely one of my top 10 movies of the year, possibly top 5. Should have been for either cinematography, directing. Everyone was furious that it was all men who were nominated for Best Director. And Melina Matsoukas, I think, should have the biggest gripe there, more so than Greta Gerwig.
Yep,
number
absolutely.
3, number 3, Midsommar. Number 4, Cold Pursuit. Had to do it to him. Rewatched it this morning. Legitimately forgot Laura Dern is in it. I laughed out loud when they showed her in she's like the very beginning of the movie. Holy smokes, Laura Dern in that classic. And number 5, another one that really no love at all, Loose. You guys see Loose?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Really, really good. That was the story. It was like the guy. He's like a really like athletic, like awesome student. I think he was adopted by a white family. He's like African American, and he has like a bunch of issues with one of his teachers, who I think he believes is like kind of like unfairly picking on him and other black students, right? And it's really, really good.
And you know who the teacher is that he hates so much that he can't get along with?
It's Olivia Spencer.
Laura Dern.
That's a great Octavia Spencer.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
Okay.
If it were Laura Dern, and Laura Dern was the teacher who was being an asshole to him because he was black, it'd be a much different movie than the one that ended up coming out. That was really, really, really good movie though. It's a makes you think movie. It ends without you necessarily feeling you have all the answers, and this was a big year for make you think movies. So shout out Loose. I think that we all had some pretty solid choices there. Let's go into Best Picture now, which I know what you're thinking. Wouldn't you save that for the end? Not really. We want to set the tone on which movies we liked and which ones we didn't. Nominees are Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women, 1917, Marriage Story, Jojo Rabbit, Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, and The Irishman. I would say that some snubs for that are probably Uncut Gems, maybe Knives Out, and whatever else you want to throw on that list. This is a category that it seems like everyone has the same sort of top 4, and then 5 through 9 is great movies, but whatever.
I would like to go through and get, if you have it in front of you, what is it, 9 total? I would like to get the order. Like the order in which you would put these. You know what's nuts? 9 through 1.
I wrote out the nominees for every category. I didn't for Best Picture, so I just scrambled and read mine in order.
Oh.
So mine are 1, Parasite, 2, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 3, Little Women, 4, 1917. I'm going to pause and say, shut out this fucking year that 1917, which was a pretty perfect movie, is my 4th best of these noms. 5, Marriage Story, 6, Jojo Rabbit, 7, Ford vs. Ferrari, 8, Joker, 9, The Irishman.
All right, I'll go second. KenJac, you go third. Number 1 for me, I'm going to go to 1917. I think I'm ready to put it there. That's my number 1. Number 2, Parasite. It's very, very close. I like lost sleep over whether that would be 1 or 2. Number 3, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 4, Marriage Story. 5, Jojo Rabbit. 6, Little Women, which I love. It's crazy that it's my 6th best movie of the year. The Irishman, 7, Joker, 8th, and Ford vs. Ferrari, 9th.
I like those picks. For mine, I would go Parasite 1. That's been my number 1 movie since when I saw it in August. I think I literally blogged it in August. I'm like, I already know this isn't going to change. Like, there would have to be a miracle for something to be better than this. And 1917 came super, super fucking close. Super fucking close. They're my number 2. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my number 3. I think, and this is a little bit of a harder one, but probably Marriage Story as my number 4. Then I'm just looking at these now because I have mine. Like the way our movie data bank looks is like I have different shit there for my best ones. Like the Best Picture nominees aren't necessarily what I think are the best movies of the year, obviously. But I think next I would go probably Jojo Rabbit, Irishman, Ford vs. Ferrari, Little Women, then Joker as my last one on there. But I also think that not like if I could have snubbed in some other guys, I would have. Like I would have had The Farewell in here. I would have had probably Last Black Man in San Francisco and Midsommar in here. But a movie like Midsommar is never going to get nominated in here. But at the end of the day, 1917 is going to end up winning this award. I think they have all the momentum, right? Like they have the Producers Guild Award, they have the Directors Guild win, they have BAFTA, they have the Golden Globe, and I think Parasite only took away the SAG this year. So it's going to be 1917s to lose. But although I'd be kind of put a little bit of money on Parasite to win. Put a little bit of money on them.
If we want to get into betting, I put money on Parasite. I put money on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I put $10, which is the most they will allow you to bet. I put $10 on Little Women, and the reason you can only put $10 on Little Women is because the odds are so insane on Oscar betting. The swings, Pete and I think have talked about this on the podcast before. Nothing is like plus 150, minus 110. Like the normal kind of sports fare that you're encountering. It's if we think this movie's a favorite, then it is minus 1,200, and everything from there is at least plus 300. Little Women, I bet $10 on at plus 20,000. So I can't do the math there. I think $10 wins $2,000. And before I even looked, before I even looked at what the odds were, I'd planned on putting some money on Little Women because in such a packed year, because of how voting is done, where they eliminate ballots until they get to one movie that has 50% of the votes, meaning if there's a very stacked year, then it's not necessarily everyone's favorite picture. It's the one that the fewest people disliked. And I would be very surprised if most of the ballots didn't have Little Women in the 2 to 5 range. So I think that Little Women has a better chance than we think. I still think that's like a 10 to 20% chance. But in a movie that's in a year that's so stacked, I think that's an easy $10 to risk.
I don't know, man. We got 3 people on this podcast, and 2 of them had Little Women out of the top 5.
I know. I noted that as you guys were saying that. That's crazy to me. Also crazy to me, I felt like I was the most obsessed with Marriage Story after seeing it, and I've seen it 3 times now. Of this group, I have Marriage Story the lowest. Kind of crazy.
That is crazy.
Just because I had Little Women in the top 3. But 2 to 4 is impossible. I've reshuffled my 2 to 4 a million times. Like I knew the Marriage Story was 5, Jojo Rabbit 6, and then Ford vs. Ferrari, Joker, and the Irishman didn't feel. I didn't think that they deserved to be nominated this year, so I don't really care about those 3. But those other ones were locked in. But between Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women, in 1917, I feel like you can put those in absolutely any order. And even you can put any of those as your number one. Like if any of you guys had said Little Women number 1, I wouldn't have batted an eye. Or if you had said Once Upon a Time in Hollywood number 1, I wouldn't have batted an eye, which shows that this year was absolutely insane.
So who do you think wins?
I think 1917 wins.
Okay. Yeah, I think 1917 will. And I still go back and forth on this. Like 1917 and Parasite for me are so fucking close that I think like 1917 will win. And like if you're gonna say should win, I think it's the number 1 movie of the year. But I also think that Parasite was a much harder movie to make
by far.
And so like I would not be at all mad if Parasite won. So, and I think that maybe it should. I don't know. Like,
I legitimately won't be. I won't be mad as long as The Irishman, Joker, and Ford vs. Ferrari don't win. I'm okay with all of these. Like Green Book was my favorite movie last year, but it was a good movie. And when it won, I was cool with it. Shape of Water was not my favorite movie, but when it won, I was like, yeah, this is a movie that is the caliber of Best Picture. I don't know if you guys agree or disagree, but this year, 6 of the 9 are completely worthy of winning. So if Jojo Rabbit won, I'd be shocked, but I'd also be like, yo, that movie is good enough to win Best Picture. Its issue is it's in an absolutely stacked year where Uncut Gems could have won Best Picture this year and it wasn't fucking nominated. You know, The Farewell. If The Farewell were nominated,
Yeah.
I would say like that movie's got some cachet that could win, and it wasn't even nominated.
So the one thing to remember is that a lot of times the Academy will pick the safe answer, and that would be Green Book last year. Shape of Water, some would say, was a safer pick last year or 2 years ago than some of the other ones in the field. I think in this year, 1917 is the safest if you're going to say it's between Parasite and 1917. I think 1917 was super, super straightforward, and Parasite was really complex, which is what gives it that edge for me over 1917.
So
Like
metaphorical.
yeah, it's very, very insane technical feat, right? 1917, but at the end of the day, it is really, really straightforward. And that's not to take away from it, but I mean, you have to give Parasite an edge in that sort of like storytelling.
I think
that's very interesting though, that like the what makes it to me like maybe a better movie is how complex it is and like how many layers there are. But like at the end of the day, you're saying that might be the reason it doesn't win Best Picture.
But you know what?
Because people like what's safe.
Go ahead.
Voters, that is.
It's so stupid.
To take away from it, though, you said not to take away from it, but I kind of do want to take away from 1917 a little bit, where it was a great, visually, it was a stunning movie and an incredible watch, and you couldn't take your eyes off of it. So isn't that like a best cinematography versus, I guess we'll transition into best director now. If it's going to win all these awards, I don't like when one movie is given multiple awards for one thing. You know, like I don't understand what Bohemian Rhapsody won any awards for, but if there was like maybe there's one thing somebody liked about Bohemian Rhapsody that what did they they said the music was good. Get out of here.
Yeah, Queen did it.
So then they gave it like best editing, best sound, best all these things, and I'm like, do you actually feel that this was the best at these things? So best director nominees: Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, Todd Phillips for Joker, Sam Mendes, 1917, Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Bong Joon-ho for Parasite, Melina Matsoukas, absolutely jobbed, Noah Baumbach, absolutely jobbed, Greta Gerwig, borderline jobbed. I would say that Tarantino, Mendes, and Bong Joon-ho were worthy of nominations. I didn't need Phillips or Scorsese being nominated. So the favorite here, I think we can all agree, the favorite's probably Sam Mendes.
Mm-hmm. He's got right now Directors Guild, BAFTA, and Golden Globes, and him and Bong tied for Critics' Choice.
Okay, so
Mendes has like overwhelming odds, I think, in betting odds.
Ton of momentum.
So is he going to be rewarded for the cinematography of it? Because that is a category, and Roger Deakins did it. So if Sam Mendes wins Best Director, I'm going to be slightly annoyed.
So that was kind of my issue with it when we were talking a little bit about it on LCB, was that I think like Best Director, you have to award for essentially the directing. And as much as Sam Mendes obviously had a lot to do with 1917, scripting the story up and like making sure that it had such a very, very deep reverence for making it feel real and all this shit, like, yeah, he deserves a shit ton of credit for that. But I think that if he were to win Best Director, he would have to split that award with Roger Deakins, because his influence on the movie is what makes the movie what it is. So in the same sense, I don't think Bong Joon-ho has that same issue. Like his influence is what made Parasite, which is why I think personally he should win it, but I'm not sure if he will. What do you call it? Based off of what all the awards are going right now.
I completely agree with that word for word. I'll also note Bong Joon-ho is plus 550. Right?
Yeah.
For Best Director.
That's amazing.
So if you want to bet on what it should be,
that's the best bet of the entire night, I think, in terms of value.
So do we all agree that Bong Joon-ho should win this?
Yeah, I think should and will.
And will.
I think
I hope
he
so.
will.
I don't think Phillips should have been nominated because I think the Joker has the best performance by a lead actor this year, but also it's just not a great movie overall. And so I don't really think he should have. I don't think he should have been nominated for this. And I think Rian Johnson probably should have been nominated because I think his taste and his influence on Knives Out made it one of the better movies of this year.
100% agree. We said like when we got the nominations and stuff, we did our episode, and I was like, Rian Johnson made Knives Out the best movie that it could have possibly been in my mind. I don't think that you can say that with Todd Phillips and the Joker. Like, I enjoyed the Joker. It definitely wasn't the best movie that it could have been. So I thought Rian Johnson was totally jobbed, and I also thought that Knives Out probably should have been nominated for Best Picture. I thought it was very, very, very good. But yeah, Bong Joon-ho for me. I don't know if this makes any sense, but like I feel like Parasite belongs to Bong Joon-ho more than 1917 belongs to Sam Mendes.
I'd agree with that.
So like, and Parasite again, I mean, unbelievable movie, almost perfect, pretty damn close to perfect. I think that it's his award to lose.
I think that it was perfect. I would say that you lack respect. So, reference to the movie Parasite came out in 2019. Best Actor. The nominees are Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Leonardo DiCaprio, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver, Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix, Joker, Jonathan Pryce, The Two Popes. I'm okay with Phoenix winning. I don't think that's...
Yeah.
Oh, you're like, good.
Say, I'm glad because
You better
he's
be.
going to.
But Joker's not the hardest role in the world, man. And I know like I wasn't surprised that Joaquin Phoenix, a very good actor, knocked the Joker, a very easy role to play, out of the park.
He didn't play the Joker. That's the thing. Like that's my only counter argument to that is that he didn't play the Joker. He played the guy before the Joker, and that's tougher.
I'd agree.
Mm-hmm. That's a fair argument, and I think it's a very, very great performance. And I do agree. I think it's the best male performance of the year. And like, it was super, super hard. He had to like distort his figure and his body and like get into this really weird and fucking dark place to get into this like sort of deranged character, which is, like you said, Pete, like not really the Joker. It's a character that kind of preempts the Joker, like and preempts like what everyone's notion is Heath Ledger. And I think the ultimate achievement you can give it is that you come away from this movie and you don't try to compare it to Heath Ledger. You're really like, this is its own thing, right? Like you're not like, I need to compare A and B. You can come away and be like, these are very different characters, right?
But I have a question. Like the body thing. Do you actually put stock into that being like part of the reason?
Tell you who does. The Oscars.
But like should it? Like I can fuck up my body. Anybody can fuck up their body.
I can and do fuck up my body.
Like I don't think that you should get credit for that. And the same way that I don't think you should get credit for like costume and makeup for
so
like
that's
best
what I'm
actor.
talking about when they award one category in multiple categories.
Right.
We'll
like
say great
Gary
makeup.
Oldman and Darkest Hour. And
right.
Fucking. I thought Christian Bale was great as Dick Cheney. I know you didn't, but like I think that the makeup plays into that, and like because he tricks you into thinking along with the makeup that he is actually Dick Cheney.
I think that if it were just Christian, I think that if you watch a Vice table read, I think you'll come away from it thinking, you know what, Christian Bale not that good as Dick Cheney. He's just doing a lot of vocalized pauses. Anyone can do that.
So the one thing that I'll counter with is that sort of the award, right, for Best Actor is just like how much that this actor is pouring into this role, right? So like with someone like Dick Cheney, or if you're playing someone like Dick Cheney, you award someone like that more, I think, if they're willing to like drastically change themselves at a physical level into turning themselves into that character. I do think that deserves recognition as long as the performance is still good. And like that's
where
not
the 110% award. It's the best actor award.
No. See, and that's where I agree. But the Academy doesn't always recognize that. And
we're participation trophies, guys. We don't want the guys who tried the hardest.
So like if you look at a movie like Bohemian Rhapsody, like at the end of the day, Rami Malek didn't sing, right? And like that's something he did not pour himself into that level of the character. And like Taron Egerton, he did sing. He poured himself into that level of the character. And so like that wasn't rewarded for Taron going that extra mile and doing something that should have really given him more praise. So the Academy doesn't always look at that the way they should. But I think that if you're doing something like really, really fucking up your body in that sense, it is hard. And I think harder than like we really realize to like get yourself, especially as like an A-list actor, into this like weird, disgusting, depraved looking like state. Like almost like you're like an anorexic looking dude. That's tough.
I don't think it's that hard for Joaquin Phoenix, honestly.
Right.
I mean, because he's
fucking up his life
that's
just for fun. Yeah.
That's because he's a psycho, man. And that goes into him being like as good as an actor as he is.
You know what? I'm not a fan of whataboutism and doing if you're going to do this, then therefore you've got to do that. But it is a great point you raise on Taron Egerton where Rami Malek was given so much praise and given so much stuff for just, we can all agree he didn't do a very good job. Didn't really do much. Didn't become Freddie Mercury, et cetera, et cetera. He only had one of the Freddies down. There were like 4 different Freddies, and he just did one the whole time. Right, exactly. But Taron Egerton really looked like him. If you want to give him all that, looked like him, sounded like him. Really was as all over the place as Elton John is. So that was. If you want to talk about a snub.
I think the category is really strong this year. So like Adam Sandler and Egerton, like I don't have a problem with the snub in theory, but I also think like when you apply it year to year, there really is no excuse for Rami Malek not only being nominated last year, but winning, and then having Egerton, who did a much better job, not get nominated.
How did we feel about, let's go these guys 2 by 2, I guess. Antonio Banderas and Jonathan Pryce. Antonio Banderas, I thought, was excellent in Pain and Glory. And the more I thought about it, so he plays a guy who's got a lot of demons, a lot of problems, bit of a recluse, using drugs, et cetera, and he's just very like mild-mannered, but in a very troubling way. But there are points in the movie where he's really got to emote, and he's really got to do something big and ugly. And I thought I didn't know that Antonio Banderas was that good an actor, so I don't think that he should win. But he's probably number 2 for me this year. And then Jonathan Pryce, I wasn't crazy about the Two Popes. I hated the first half of it, liked the second half of it, but I just spent most of the time distracted by that. It was one of the movies that I saved for last because I just didn't want to watch it. So I got some weird bias against the Two Popes.
I like the Two Popes. I was surprised at how much I liked it, and especially for like a story that I absolutely did not care about one iota. And I don't like old people. I don't like watching old people. Sorry, it's
everything I don't like.
But not interested in 2 old white guys hashing it out about the Catholic Church. But this movie was very, 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 very interesting to me, and I thought that both the performances were strong. So I like Jonathan Pryce, and I think that he should have been nominated. Ultimately, it doesn't fucking matter. Right. Joaquin Phoenix is going to win. I do think that Adam Driver deserves it. I think that Adam Driver deserves it this year. I thought that he was fucking amazing in Marriage Story, and it's a bummer, but I think that he'll end up being back there. So it's not a situation.
Driver's
where, like,
3 for me on of that group.
Like last year, I was very, very upset, and I wanted fucking what's his name from the one with Melissa McCarthy.
Oh yeah,
Richard E. Grant. Yeah, I was really, really upset that he didn't win because I thought that he deserved to win, and I thought that might have been his only shot.
That was supporting, though, right?
Right.
Oh, yeah. You're saying like a case where like they're not going to be back there.
There might not be back there. I thought that was like maybe his one shot, and he is an actor, and it would have meant so much to him. So I was like really, really pulling for him last year. I can't really get that upset over like the fact that I'm resigned that Adam Driver's going to
be
lose.
Adam Driver's going to be back.
So like Joaquin Phoenix, I think is going to win, and it's not going to upset me that much.
Yeah, I don't think there's much of a question there. I did love Antonio Banderas a ton, and Pain and Glory is my second favorite foreign movie of the year, only behind Parasite. I still think if I was going to take out 2 people from this, and by the way, I agree with you, Pete. I like Two Popes way more than I thought it was, especially as someone I grew up like going to church school and all that shit, and I was like, I don't want to fucking ever talk about Catholicism crap ever again. And I ended up enjoying the movie a pretty decent amount. But if I could take out 2 people, I would take out Banderas and I would take out Pryce, and I would add Taron Egerton for Rocketman, because again, singing is just that extra level that is really fucking hard. Nailed it. And the other person I would add is George Mackay from 1917, because you want to talk about a physically demanding fucking role, an emotionally demanding role, and doing a movie that is in a one shot. It's probably, I think it's only cut into like 6 or 7 different takes. That is really fucking hard and really demanding for an actor that is an incredible veteran, right? And George Mackay is like all of like 27 years old, and he's doing this like something that vets couldn't pull off, and like that, not literal 1917 vets. No disrespect, love the troops over here, acting veterans.
Well, which guy in 1917 is he?
So this is the guy who I don't want to spoil anything.
I'm just kidding. He's the only guy in 1917.
He's a beginning to end guy. Beginning to end guy.
He's a beginning to end guy.
He's the guy that was in Mamma Mia. He's one of the dads, but there's a twist. He's gay.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to ask, where do you think Leonardo DiCaprio's role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood ranks amongst his roles? Because it was brought up by Jeff Israel, I believe. He said that it's his best role, and I don't necessarily know if I disagree with that.
I think it was awesome. It really sucks because it is a stacked field this year, right, for Best Actor. But I really did love it a lot, and a lot of it was, I would say, harder takes than he usually does. Like sometimes I feel like a lot of his better roles. Like for me, I love Revolutionary Road. I loved his performance in that, and that's something he didn't get enough recognition for, in my opinion. And it's when the director, and that was actually Sam Mendes who directed that, and he gave him that space, right, and like these long takes to be able to like kind of get more into the role. And Quentin Tarantino does that same thing. Like I love. Like my favorite performance ever from DiCaprio is him in Django Unchained, and that's one where he really got like the opportunity to go into the space and like express himself a lot without getting a ton of cuts in the way. And he did the same thing here. I think this would be my second favorite out of all of his roles.
So you were saying you like when he can thrive without a lot of cuts. Not a fan of the trailer scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, then, huh? Because that was extremely my shit. Him just yelling about how much he hates himself. And then going back and forth between I'm going to change my life and then like you're an asshole. The best.
I love that. That
was drinking followed immediately by like a pull of whiskey.
Oh right,
so good.
Drink it.
You're going to change your life.
Yeah, I think that like that's very close to being like maybe his best role, and I mean it's certainly better than the Revenant. And so like it's funny that like his 8th best performance is the one that actually got him the Oscar, but it was the Lifetime Achievement Award at that point.
Okay, Best Actress nominees: Cynthia Erivo as Harriet Tubman in Harriet, Scarlett Johansson in Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan in Little Women, Charlize Theron in Bombshell, Renee Zellweger in Judy. We know what's going to win, I think, right? Are we all in agreement? It's probably going to be Renee Zellweger.
Yep, every single award, man. All the steam in the world.
I'm all the steam. You don't want that steam. Totally on board with it. Judy's a movie that I didn't think I was going to love that much, but it was. I texted Pete after this and then realized like it's not that big of a compliment. I was like, Judy is the best musical biopic of the last 2 years. Then I was like, I hated Bohemian Rhapsody. Rocket Man I thought was good to very good, but not great. Judy I think was very good.
So I mean, it's funny that you point out that like musical biopics are becoming all the fucking rage.
They are hot as shit. You want to talk about steam, bro?
Extremely hot in the streets, and like none of them have been amazing so far.
Yeah.
So I gotta be honest, I haven't seen Judy yet. I'm fucking so dreading watching this movie.
I've been telling you, you're gonna like it. There's no way you're not gonna like it.
I know, but like I don't care about fucking Judy Garland. I can't stand Renee Zellweger.
But it's Judy Garland at the end of her life when she's been taking drugs her whole life. That's some delicious shit.
I'm sure it's interesting, but I fucking hate Renee Zellweger.
I'm gonna see what the audience score is on this movie
because you're fucking high. I believe that. I believe you. I believe it's a good movie,
and you're gonna like it.
But I don't want to watch it. It's just one of those movies that I don't want to watch.
Some of these ends up like the Two Popes thing, where like you really go into it dreading having to watch it, but you have to watch it for the sake of reviewing it, and then you end up liking it. That was kind of like Judy for me. Like I really, this is in sort of the same boat as you, Pete. Like I'm just have no real interest in going back to the old school sort of self-aggrandizing Hollywood shit. But like it was pretty dark is maybe not necessarily the right word, but like it was no red tape. Like in the same way that Bohemian Rhapsody was heavily manicured by Queen, this doesn't give you that. Right, like she kind of gives you a more, I would say, deeper look, which is interesting. I don't know if I would watch this and say immediately off the top of my head, like, wow, Renee deserves this award right now, like lock of the century, Renee Zellweger. I wouldn't say that, like if I was like just me. But as far as the Academy goes, like that's going to be their pick. I can't see them going anywhere else.
We can say that it's a weak category this year, right?
Yeah,
I believe that it's a pretty weak category.
Because of the nominees, man, they should have had. First of all, Awkwafina should have absolutely been nominated.
Crazy.
I think she had top 3, if not top 1, performance of the year by an actress. And Lupita Nyong'o in Us, that was never going to get nominated, mostly because it got released in like fucking February or something. But she was unreal in Us, so good.
Yeah, I have Awkwafina for sure. And I think that if Awkwafina had been nominated, I probably would have watched Judy by now because it would be a closer race. And like one of the biggest reasons that I haven't watched Judy is because everybody's like, Renee Zellweger is going to win this award. And I'm just like, well, then I don't need to fucking see it. I'll just fucking agree with everybody else on the planet who's like, not even a question, she's going to win. So
yes,
I think that Awkwafina was fucking great in The Farewell. And I didn't love The Farewell, like as a movie, like in total. I thought that it was a little overrated, but I thought that Awkwafina was fucking unbelievable.
I agree with every word of that. It's easy also to look at these nominees to KenJac's point and say, well, this probably won't win. So for example, Charlize Theron would be a makeup and costume award, because I think everybody was so blown away, and she was very good in Bombshell, which was a good, not great movie. Mm-hmm. But everybody was so blown away at, holy shit, she looks just like Megyn Kelly. And if everyone's coming out of the movie saying, wow, could you believe how much Charlize Theron looked like Megyn Kelly, then intentionally or unintentionally, they're not really critiquing or discussing the performance. So that, I think, was maybe nominated for the wrong reasons, unfortunately. Saoirse Ronan, I don't know if the Academy feels this way. They probably don't. I have big, what we call Saoirse Ronan Greta Gerwig fatigue, a.k.a. Saoirse Ronan coming-of-age fatigue, where a.k.a. Octavia Spencer supporting actress fatigue, where we know you can knock this out of the park. We know that if you give Saoirse Ronan a coming-of-age film, especially if Gerwig's in the mix, she is going to smash that thing a mile out of the park.
She's like Zion Williamson in middle school, where he's just like fucking dunking on these like 5.5 feet tall white kids. It's like, we get it. You're good. You're going to be one of the best NBA players, but you know what? Like, I need to see it against tougher competition.
Exactly. And it's, again, no surprise at all, Saoirse Ronan was great. But even when Lady Bird came out, I was like, well, I've already seen Brooklyn, and she was a lot better in that. And Brooklyn, I think, was just a much better movie than Lady Bird. So I guess I'm holding against Saoirse Ronan that she keeps doing similar things that we all know she can do very well. Like I said a couple years ago, if Octavia Spencer is nominated for Best Supporting Actress again in the next like 3 years, we have to send a market signal. Nobody vote for Octavia Spencer. Force her to take a leading role because she's one of the best actresses in the world, and she's like, I can clean up if I ride shotgun here.
And now we got Ma, so joke's on us.
And that gave us Ma.
Exactly, yeah. That's what you get for your trouble. I saw someone tweet, like, someone just give Saoirse Ronan an Oscar so she can stop doing period pieces. Please, God. Please give it to her so she can do a different type of movie. Because I agree with you. She's like a premier actress, and she's just stuck doing these movies that I feel like are built to appeal. No, but like that's
she just chooses to do those.
She drove there,
but because she doesn't have the award. These this kind of genre that she keeps doing, they're all built to win Oscars. These movies she keeps picking to do, and I think once she wins one, she's going to be able to do her like smaller indie projects. She's going to be able to do stuff maybe like a fucking franchise. She'll be able to do something that's outside of this very, very small group of Oscar like kind of bait movies.
Like we kind of had the discussion, and we said it with Timothée Chalamet too, because Timothée Chalamet keeps doing the Greta Gerwig stuff.
I got big Chalamet fatigue, bro.
But guess what? Like Chalamet's doing a ton of other stuff. Saoirse Ronan is not doing other stuff. She's just doing this.
And I think that our frustration is so like concentrated on Saoirse Ronan because I can't give you a list right now. But if you say name the best 10 actresses going right now, or 10 best 10 actors going right now, male, female, whatever, Saoirse Ronan is definitely one of the first names I'm saying. And then if you're like, cool, what's your favorite stuff she does? Then that's where the frustration comes in, where I'm like, well, she kind of does the same thing a lot. So don't go off of which movies she keeps doing. You really got to focus on how good she is in them.
Right.
So I'm with you, KenJac. Hopefully, maybe winning prompts her to do other stuff, but even just having done this a million times should prompt her to do other stuff.
I got to tell you, like her winning this year would be the greatest thing that's ever happened to me because one, she might do other stuff, and two, Renee Zellweger doesn't win, and everybody who like watched Judy and was like, oh my God, she's 100% going to win. It's like, well, nope.
I did think
the biggest upset in the fucking world.
I don't know if I register a as like a Renee Zellweger fan, hater, whatever. I've really generally been indifferent, but I thought she was really, really good in Judy, and I do think that of these nominees, she deserves it.
I would love to avoid Renee Zellweger speech at the Oscars. That'd be great.
Why?
Did you see her at the Golden Globes?
Oh yeah,
What did she do?
It was a disaster.
It was rough.
Yeah.
I watched it.
What did she do is a very good question. It was we don't know, some sort of cocktail, but allegedly, don't sue me. But it was something of some sort.
I just remember, Jeff tweeted like me. I'm something, and it was something like self-deprecating about Jeff, and then it was Renee Zellweger, hold my edibles.
Yes. Dude, she's absurd. I would love Saoirse, by the way, to just get this out of the way, because we might see her in like Avengers 6 then in 2 years. Because like she'll just be like, fuck it, I can finally go and get the bag. Like I don't need to worry
let's
about
fast track this. I do want to shout out Cynthia Erivo. Had one of a scene late in Harriet was like one of the best scenes, maybe the best individual scene of any of these nominees. And also she was in Bad Times at the El Royale. So shout out that movie.
Supporting actor is a really interesting category this year, I think. And
Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Anthony Hopkins, Two Popes, Al Pacino, The Irishman, Joe Pesci, The Irishman, and Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
So my biggest question here, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, KenJac. What did you think of Brad Pitt's performance in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
He's a favorite.
I liked it. He is, very, very clear favorite. He has the Screen Actors Guild Award, BAFTA, Globes, Critics' Choice. He has everything. Like I would put like a 90% chance on him winning it. But as far as his performance goes, a lot of people really, really hyped it up. I don't think it was a huge leap for him to try and act like that. I feel like for me,
that's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
I was watching this and I was like, I feel like this is a toned down Aldo Rain. Like it's just like, let's have Brad Pitt be like a sort of badass dude that just doesn't talk much but looks cool. And like, there's nothing wrong with that. It lent to the movie perfectly. Like it made the movie a lot better. But when I was watching it, I'm like, I'm not blown away with what Pitt is doing as an actor. As his character lends to the movie, that's great. But like, to me, it wasn't a crazy acting leap.
Yeah, I completely agree. And that was like my entire thing. Like everybody came away from this movie being like, Brad Pitt was so fucking great. And like, I don't necessarily disagree with it. I thought that he was awesome. I loved the performance. I loved his character. But if we're talking about like in terms of difficulty, not that hard, because the role was basically written for Brad Pitt or like Matthew McConaughey. Like it was just basically written for his type of character and for him to thrive in. And he did. Good for him. But like, it didn't blow me away.
Extremely in type for him. And a movie that people did not like, Ad Astra, I thought was extremely out of type for him. And I thought he was awesome.
I thought that he was better in Ad Astra than he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in terms of the difficulty of the performance. Yeah. I honestly thought that this year Brad Pitt could have been nominated for Best and Best Supporting. Because
Ad Astra being snubbed this year was a huge travesty to me. I know a lot of people really don't like it. I think it was absolutely tremendous.
I thought it was very good.
I thought that it was a stunning movie. It wasn't the best, but it was incredible to watch.
And it wasn't nominated for cinematography, which I thought was unbelievable.
That might be the biggest snub of all. That might seriously be the biggest snub of all. Insane.
It had at least cinematography or visual editing. I think the only other actor I think should have probably been on here, I would say Willem Dafoe probably deserved to be on this list, and then also Song Kang-ho from Parasite. Both of them I think probably should have been on there, but they didn't get in. Like Joe Pesci I think deserved to be on. Al Pacino for me I don't think was crazy out of type in Irishman either. Like he was very Al Pacino-y, and like I was like, okay, that's just Al Pacino. Like I wasn't like, oh shit, that's Jimmy Hoffa. Holy fuck, he's so different. But meanwhile, Joe Pesci was doing something super out of type, and he was awesome, I thought, in Irishman.
Right, super measured, just different from what you're getting from Joe Pesci. I thought Tom Hanks's character was annoying.
Yeah, I wasn't like thrilled.
What's that guy's deal?
I love just being in fucking Mr. Rogers slander.
Oh, that's an asshole. Hey, that's a veteran right there. 260 confirmed kills in Vietnam. Don't even forget it.
Are you serious?
No, that's the rumor like someone spread. Yeah.
Well, once you said Vietnam, I was like, no. But then when you said that's a veteran,
There's a meme about how he has like all these tattoos on his body, one for each person he killed in Vietnam, and like someone photoshopped him with longer dots on his body. It's like that's why he has the sweater on to hide all the dots from the people he killed.
Oh, like, I thought you were doing like a hey, did you know that like Adam Driver was in the Marines? Like, yeah. So I don't know. It was believable that Mr. Rogers,
but like
could have been.
Is that Mr. Rogers is like one of like the most prolific military snipers in history?
Once you got into the 260 confirmed kills. Did they do confirmed kills back then?
I don't know back then. No. Probably not.
I don't know if they did back then. I didn't dislike A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. I do have some Mr. Rogers nostalgia fatigue, but
I have some Mr. Rogers playing a real person fatigue. Like, if we're talking about Saoirse Ronan doing period pieces, got to talk about Tom Hanks just completely, I'm going to be this guy fatigue, because that's literally all he's done for like the past decade.
Let me never do an original character ever again. I think that's what he thought after he was in Cloud Atlas. He's like, I'm not doing that again.
That's fair.
That is Sully time, y'all.
That is totally fair. Again, yeah, you do something like Cloud Atlas and it bombs to fucking hell. You're like, yeah, I'm just gonna do period pieces and get nominated for Oscars every year.
You know, it's
and have a son that says Bombaclot.
No. You know, it's a great performance from him. I think it got nominated, and I'm not kidding. This movie got mocked for a lot of reasons, but Captain Phillips, he was awesome.
Love Captain Why was that got mocked? I mean, the end scene
because
the end scene is like one of like the most powerful like
performances
that I've ever seen. Yeah, where he has like the PTSD basically,
right,
and he's being like checked up on. I mean, that scene was fucking powerful.
Yeah, he was incredible. IRL Captain Phillips was an asshole, so people were upset. Dissimilar.
Well, IRL Tom Hanks is an asshole too.
No, he's not.
No,
Don't you dare.
No.
Look at the kid he raised, man.
Yeah. When cancel culture really first started popping, that story that went around gave me a heart attack. Did you see that?
It was like
It was like 3 more actresses come forward saying Tom Hanks is the nicest person in the world.
That shit is so funny.
Heart attack.
So if we agree that Brad Pitt is going to win for Best Supporting Actor, or like a 90% chance going to win for Supporting Actor, who is the dark horse?
If I had to put money on a dark horse right here, I don't really think so. Like, see, I liked Hopkins a lot, and this is a role that the Academy would love. That's a really safe pick. If I had to pick another one, I think they would, in some sort of sense, might give it to Joe Pesci, just like not necessarily Lifetime Achievement Award, but to give The Irishman something, because I don't really think it's going to come away with a lot this year.
Ugh. How do you feel about the Irish? I didn't like The Irishman at all. It frustrated me. You could make an entire movie with the pre and post Hoffa parts of the movie. That equals almost 90 minutes, which is insane to me. I thought there was so much fat on that movie. It was a long movie that felt a million times longer than it actually was. And I think that the great people who made this movie, the incredibly talented legends that made this movie, should be punished, not rewarded for, hey, you made a movie. They should say, you're incredible. You're one of the best players on earth. Why did you only score 4 goals this season?
I disagree a little bit. And I watched this movie, and my initial thoughts after watching were like, man, that was really long. That was a drag. Those first acts just took forever. And I still think that there was probably like 20 minutes to cut off this movie. And that's fine. That's totally fine. And I think some parts visually didn't work with the de-aging shit, like especially obviously everyone points out the shopkeeper scene, which like love Scorsese all you want, it looked like shit. I'm sorry. But I do think that this was, as far as Scorsese goes, a very different mobster movie. Like everyone's like, oh, he's just doing Goodfellas, he's doing Casino again. I think it was very different and very, very, I would say, poignant, especially at the end. Like the third act, I think is probably
Oh my God, the third act.
It's a mobster movie with like more humanity to it and like more humanization. And I thought that was what I liked about
What was this movie about? Was this a Jimmy Hoffa movie, or was it a old person is dying movie? Because I'll tell you, if I want an old person is dying movie, I'll watch The Two Popes. I didn't really pay attention to The Two Popes. Is that what? happens.
No one does.
Die at the end. They both die at the end.
They're both still alive somehow. I don't know.
I mean, I think they both died because that scene of them watching soccer at the end is basically heaven to me.
I thought they were gonna like force Ghost fade away during that scene. I just assumed. But they.
If I wanted an old person dies, I would watch Chris Cooper in A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
So I do think that the third act was probably one of Scorsese's best, because that is the sort of the one element in a lot of mobster movies you don't get. It's just like, how the lifestyle obviously looks all glamorous, blah blah blah, but like that effect and how it like kind of hits you later in life, especially because it damages so many of your relationships, that doesn't necessarily get touched on a lot. And I think that was really cool of Scorsese to get on. And I think De Niro really fucking killed it at the end of it. And I mean, so did Pesci. I mean, Pesci totally out of type and just fucking murdered that movie. You know what's a cool trend this year? A lot of movies very, very deep on just like I don't want to say the power of friendship because that sounds corny, but a lot about friendships, bromances. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, bromance. Two Popes, bromance. What do you call it? We were just talking about Irishman, bromance.
Bromance.
It's a big time. You got to watch the movie,
is
man.
bromance.
It's a big time bromance. It's just the two popes just hanging out, just doing pope shit.
Oh, I remembered. My take here is that in The Irishman, Scorsese should be automatically disqualified, and it should be disqualified for Best Picture because it has one of the worst scenes of the entire year. Agree or disagree?
Shopkeeper.
Yeah.
The shopkeeper scene, I don't know how, and so I think her name is Teresa Schumacher. This Scorsese's like longtime editor for like all of his movies ever, and she's a fantastic, like 4 or 5 time Oscar-winning editor. And how she watched that scene and was like, "This needs to stay," is beyond me, because it really was one of the worst. That was like C-level action.
So I just want to note, this is going to be score 1 for the good guys. Pete and Jack here have agreed that The Irishman has the worst scene of the year potentially,
yeah.
And they were not referencing the scene in this movie in which he goes to buy his own casket, and he gets
Action
a green one from Action Bronson.
I didn't have a problem with that scene.
Are you kidding me? The movie was so over by a million miles. The movie was so over. It was
very unnecessary, and I don't.
He killed Hoffa. The daughter wasn't speaking to him. It was all tied up. It was over. And they're like, Action Bronson around? Oh my God. And then like 70 more minutes happened after that scene. Fuck that movie.
They definitely slipped that past Scorsese. He definitely had no idea who that was. Like the casting director is like, I really like Action Bronson. I want to throw him in this movie. And Scorsese's like, who the hell is that guy? Why not? Put him in here.
My read on it was that Scorsese has like a bit of Robert Kraft to him,
where he's like trying to.
He's like just friends with every star for some reason, and you're like, well, how are you like dear friends of Meek Mill? And actually, Robert Kraft's explanation for how he's friends with Meek Mill is like pretty touching. One of his friends was just like, yo, my buddy Meek's a really good guy. You should meet him. And they met and they became friends, and then all that shit happened. So shout out Robert Kraft. But that's how I read that. As like Martin Scorsese's like, you know what kind of company I keep? I know. Action Bronson. Let's put him in the movie.
Why not? That's a cool name.
So cool. Yeah, I could see Martin Scorsese just being tickled by, and this fellow's name is Action.
Are you related to Charles Bronson at all? Sibling? Cousin?
Wow. All right, so I think we all agree The Irishman sucks. Best Supporting Actress nominees: Laura Dern for Cold Pursuit, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, Kathy Bates and Richard Jewell, Florence Pugh. Pew pew pew. I want to sound some sort of alarm for whenever we mention Florence Pugh, because she's an icon on this podcast. And Margot Robbie for Bombshell. I guess before we get to these supporting performances, I want to hit quickly on ScarJo in Marriage Story and how you felt Marriage Story was acted. Obviously, Laura Dern and Ray Liotta knocked it out of the park. I thought that Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson were both excellent, but they had their moments similar to, like, if you love The Irishman, you can also acknowledge that it had a really rough scene. I think that ScarJo in the big fight scene in subsequent watches was not as good as I thought on the first watch, and I actually thought that was maybe one of her weaker scenes in the movie.
So I think she was outperformed by Driver in the movie, which is not
100%.
necessarily a bad thing because I still think this is one of ScarJo's, if not her best role, probably ever. And I don't think, again, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just sometimes you watch a movie and you look at it like these two performances next to each other, and it's almost like you could be a 9 out of 10, but if there's a 10 out of 10 sitting next to you, it's like you just don't look like anything, right?
Right.
It's like, she was like the Duff to Adam Driver, more or less, in this scene. And that sucks because I still think that it was a fucking awesome performance for her. And this was like a banner year for her, I think, in general.
Yeah.
Because she really flipped the script, I think, at least for me, of like her ability as an actress, because I think she was fucking killer in Jojo Rabbit. And like, I really would love to see her in more roles like that now, like more like fun comedy, dramedy sort of shit. Like I would love to see more of that and less action roles. And I think she was fucking great in this. And I don't think she's going to win either award. But I do think that she deserved both nominations very, very like strongly.
Also, like not to mention the fact that she also had a role in like the highest grossing movie ever.
All time.
So like, is this
She in
like
Star Wars?
No, she's in the Avengers. But like, think about it. Does she have like the best year for an actress ever? She got best supporting,
Laura
best
Dern?
actor, best actress, and in the highest grossing movie ever. Probably.
It's fucking
Probably the
no
best
one has
year
I
ever
like
ever
the
done
idea.
that.
We should loop back and come up with like who had the best year this past year, because Scarlett, the ones that come to mind are Scarlett Johansson, Laura Dern, and Florence Pugh.
And then that's
Brad
that's
Pitt,
that's
maybe,
really good. Brad Pitt is up there.
right.
Brad Pitt's up there in the actor category. I think Shia LaBeouf, honestly, it
Yes,
might be up there in the
banner
attic.
year for him.
Honey Boy and Peanut Butter Falcon, and then you also have to consider Adam Driver, who is in fucking Star Wars, Marriage Story, and The Report wasn't too bad either. So fucking big year for Adam Driver.
Yeah,
Yep.
wild.
I agree. Laura Dern's taking this, though. Just going to note it. SAG, BAFTA, Critics' Choice, and Globes. I mean, she's going to win this. I would be shocked if she didn't. I don't know how you guys felt in Bombshell. I don't necessarily feel after watching it that Margot Robbie should have
Definitely not. Definitely not.
Especially after all the nominees happened. I thought Jennifer Lopez was going to get nominated because I think she fucking was awesome in Hustlers. And Hustlers getting shut out was another big crime, I think, of this award season because across the board, incredible movie. And
She would have
Florence
been
Pugh,
supporting there, would she have? She would have been.
she would have been
she
supporting, yeah. So she was up.
would've
Yeah,
been?
Constance
Okay.
Wu,
Yeah,
I would
okay.
say, is the lead.
Yeah. And Florence Pugh, I don't think should have been nominated for Little Women, but I think should have been nominated for lead actress
Wrong.
in Summer.
Whoa!
That's what I think.
That's crazy. So we think that Laura Dern and Florence Pugh were the two best supporting performances by far. The reason
I would say Kathy Bates is close. I thought Kathy Bates was
I
really
wasn't
good. in
blown
Richard
away.
Jewell.
I wasn't.
I thought she
don't
was
know.
very good in Richard Jewell.
The crying scene killed me, man.
Florence Pugh, the only thing I took away from Florence Pugh was that Amy is just an awesome role. And I think that's similar to how if you're playing the Joker, I kind of take that with a grain of salt. Amy is just the best role. Like if I'm going to be in Little Women,
Who you want to play?
I want to play Amy. That's a killer role, and a great actress knocked Amy out of the park. I guess I'm not ultimately surprised, though, that Florence Pugh would completely crush that. That's the only thing I hold against Florence Pugh. She was obviously in her role much more than Laura Dern was in hers, but Laura Dern's first scene, I said this on a previous episode, Laura Dern's first scene in Marriage Story, when she's sitting down with ScarJo and talking and like trying to be her shoulder to cry on, and her eyes are just darting all over the place like a terrible actress, is some of the best acting I've ever seen in my life, because she's so well conveying someone who's disingenuous, is taking advantage of the situation. I just thought that she ruled, even though she wasn't in the movie a ton.
So this is where I'll disagree, and this is not on Dern at all. I totally agree with you there. But with Florence Pugh, and this goes with most turn-of-the-century roles, those for me never feel as if they are incredibly hard unless they do something super special. Because especially for someone who's a classically trained actress like Florence Pugh, that's sort of the thing you grow up with in the theater scene, is doing these sort of turn the century like roles. Like that's something you're very, very used to, and something you most of your career is like kind of built on until you get into like big screen acting. And so for me, her role in Midsommar is something that's a role I don't think I've ever seen acted ever, and that's something she trailblazed and made her own. And I found that is way more powerful and speaks way more volumes as a lead actress than her doing a role that has been performed no less than, I want to say, 12 times now on the big screen. Yeah, I don't think that to me is as impressive, and that's the only place I'll disagree with you there. And the only other person I'd want on this list, Zhao Shuzhen from The Farewell, Nai. That grandma.
Oh, yeah.
So sweet, such a good actress, and so good at just playing the innocent old grandma that just like wants their kid or the grandkid to be the best they can. Oh, what a sweetheart.
What about what's her name? Julia Butters. You know who Julia Butters is?
Julia Butters.
She's the little kid in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yes.
The one that has her shit together. Yeah. That is a great scene, though. And then her little tag at the end. That is some of the best acting I've seen in my entire life.
She would not want to be nominated for Best Supporting Actress because she would want to be nominated for Best Supporting Actor.
Right. Doesn't she say
she hates
actor?
The word actress.
Wow. A lot of use of actor in the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood universe, huh?
Yeah.
Between the interviewer asking Quentin Tarantino.
That's what I thought you were getting at earlier.
I don't know. Well, why do they still call it actress and actor? Or why do they still call it actress and supporting actress then? If it's
a lot of people have a problem with it.
That's set in the late 1990s.
Yes,
so you got to remember this is back in the day.
It's true.
That was all like a long take, no? That whole scene where he's going back and forth with her. That is, again, long takes to me will always be more impressive for any actor or actress. But if you're doing that as a fucking child, that is unreal level.
Their meeting scene isn't a long take, is it? It's is it?
They have an initial conversation when he's reading the book, and I want to say that take goes on for like 2 minutes. And again, that is so incredibly hard.
Yeah, that scene was great too.
Yeah, that's where I was saying it on our we do these little mini episodes for each movie that's nominated. I was saying her performance there is way more important than just, hey, you're going to be the cute little kid, because she really needs to convey that she's got her act way more together than he does, which it's easy. Anybody can just sit there and chew gum, and they clearly have their act together more than Rick Dalton does in that moment. But she is just so sharp and so like put together, and clearly has a good head on her shoulders.
More professional than Rick Dalton, who's considered to be one of the best in his profession.
Right. She says that she hasn't eaten yet or something like that, because she finds that when she eats
want anything
this far
to slow
before,
her down.
Right. She's incredible in that. So that I guess takes us through all of the big major categories. So how do you feel? So then let's
do screenplay. Like I think screenplay is an interesting one, just based off of like I think that is a closer category than some of the other categories.
For sure. I think the odds right now are very heavily in Tarantino's favor, but I think that there's also room for an upset there.
Do you know that Tarantino wrote that?
Yeah, man, you need to know who he writes. Like basically everything. It's crazy.
I saw it in his speech. He's like, as long as that guy's like not doing anything illegal, I kind of like his. What a weirdo vibe.
Oh yeah, 100%.
That he goes up there and he's like, you usually thank the people
like...
that helped make it happen, but this is a writing award. I wrote it.
Just me. I wrote it. No one else.
So the for me to come up here and thank other people, I reject that hypothesis.
Yeah, and I just also love the fact that he acts like he bathes in cocaine before every award show, which is, I love it. Original screenplay for me is interesting. I think the only one that I can really kind of throw out of there is 1917.
Yes.
Like I don't really know if that punches with the other ones.
Although someone called you an asshole, Pete, because you said that it was a great movie, and then somebody said they were like, "Of course you like the movie with no women," and it was written by a woman.
Co-written by a woman. Yeah, I mean, I think that Parasite can very much win this one. I know Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's a favorite, but like Marriage Story, I could easily see winning too.
I would want Parasite or Knives Out. It sounds crazy, but
really,
yeah. I don't know. I just want Knives Out to win something.
Me too. That's it. I really just want Knives Out to get something because, like, you want to talk about a really fucking down year for comedies. Like, this is it. And, like, that was one of the funniest movies of the year, Knives Out. And just one of the most intriguing, too. Like, you're captivated by everything that is happening in that film.
You guys are going to think I'm a bit of a joker as I hit this category quickly. Best Original Score. Nominees are Joker, Little Women, Marriage Story, 1917, and you're going to have to help me pronounce this, Pete. The Rise of
Skywalker?
I don't know what that word is. I don't know what that word is. Yes, whatever that is. I strongly think that Marriage Story should win, but I thought Parasite should have been nominated. And honestly, as I rewatched Cold Pursuit this morning, I forgot that's got an absolute heater of a score.
Yes,
that
sure does.
Like I can get that music stuck in my head, which is, I think, a telling thing for a score. But Randy Newman, I really hope wins. I don't know what the odds are. I don't know who's favored. I believe Joker won at the Golden Globes. Okay,
Joker's probably going to win this too. Yeah,
Joker's got the steam. I'll tell you what, I'm not crazy about that.
Yeah.
I think the Joker, again, I don't love the actual movie of the Joker. Like, I think there's a lot to love about it, but I don't think it was it's not a top 15 movie of the year for me. But I also think that the score is what made a lot of scenes that might not have been as good much better, like the bathroom dancing scene, all that shit like that. A lot of the score had a huge amount to do with this movie being way better than it might have been without it. If you put fucking Danny Elfman on that track, that movie would get like bomb horrifically.
Wait, you're saying that Danny Elfman would have taken away from that?
Just a little bit, yeah. Just a Danny Elfman.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
Yeah, I
no, I'm a Danny Elfman guy.
Okay, cool.
Let me be very clear. I'm a big Danny Elfman guy, but there are certain places he belongs and certain places he doesn't. He does not belong anywhere near a Joker movie.
Very good way of putting it. Also, Danny Elfman scored the 50 Shades movies. Nothing will ever make me laugh harder. They're like these terrible movies. I remember. I rewatched one because we were doing a podcast about how bad it was.
Did you know that?
Yo, I've traveled to see Danny Elfman. What's he doing? When I went, Barclays was showing Nightmare Before Christmas, and Danny Elfman and Catherine O'Hara and the cast of Nightmare Before Christmas was there with an orchestra, and they just did the movie, and it was the coolest shit in the world. Paul Rubens was not there. I think he was in trouble at that time, but it was amazing. So what's he going to do? Is he going to do like Oingo Boingo stuff, or is he going to do movie stuff?
I have no idea. He's in the flyer. He's sandwiched between 21 Savage and DaBaby. Like, I don't know what he's supposed to be doing between those sets. I'm not even joking. I'll send you guys the fucking flyer. It is unbelievable to look at. But like, I would go and see a movie composer for sure. Like Hans Zimmer does these tours and shit all the time.
Yes.
I would go to those.
Hans Zimmer has done Coachella, I believe.
Yes. Who's the guy?
Hans.
Who's the guy who did the Sicario? He died, but like that guy was fucking unbelievable.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I listen to the Sicario fucking soundtrack, and it's just like the best.
While we're on Randy Newman, I'll also say best original song. The heavy favorite is "I'm Gonna Love Me Again" from Rocket Man, and I didn't think that was a particularly good song. Certainly not up to the standards of the people who made it. I think that "I Can't Let You Throw Yourself Away" from Toy Story 4 is the best of these songs.
Mm-hmm. Johan Johansson is the guy who did Sicario, and he died 2 years ago.
If they did like a score fest, and it's just like Randy Newman, the dude from Radiohead, Ludwig Göransson, like John Williams. Oh, you're a Ludwig Göransson guy?
Oh, I'm a big Ludwig Göransson guy. We were talking about him with The Mandalorian for like the last 6 months. Just like this guy, you want to talk about an up and up?
I know that he did that.
Yeah, he did. Yep, I told you.
Wow. Mando, Creed, Black Panther, like all these fucking great scores. He's going to be the guy.
Can I interest you? Can I interest you in a song called "Forever" by Haim? That's pretty good. And a song called "Redbone" or an album called "Awaken My Love" by Childish Gambino. That guy rules.
So what else do we got? Anything? Any final Oscars?
No, mainly I want to get to the bottom of what Danny Elfman is doing. There was a great if you want a good I reject your hypotheses moment. One time in an interview, Danny Elfman was doing something and there was an audience and they took questions from the audience. And someone just asked like a harmless throwaway question. They were like, "Hey, Danny, I'm a big fan of everything you've done. I'm just wondering, do you think you'll ever remaster any of like the old Oingo Boingo stuff?" And Danny Elfman, very Quentin Tarantino, is like, "Why do you feel they need to be remastered?" And it was so awkward. He was like, "Do you even know?" He was basically like, "Yo, you don't even know what mastering means. You're just using that term. You're just trying to sound cool. I mixed it and mastered it the way it should have sounded, and that's how it sounds. All right, go fuck yourself."
Here's interesting way we started with the biggest snubs, best movies not included in the Oscars. Let's end it with, what do you think the worst movie nominated for an Oscar this year is? Because there are some good candidates.
That's a great question. I mean, among Best Picture, those three, I would say Ford versus Ferrari, The Irishman, and Joker. But only one of those movies I feel is bad. Like Ford versus Ferrari, awesome,
fine popcorn movie.
Right? Exactly. But certainly not this year. It doesn't deserve anything.
But like, if you're talking about best movie just straight up nominated for an Oscar, I think you got to throw like The Lion King into that category. Frozen 2.
Lion King was bad.
Lion King was
shot for shot
bad outside of like the technical achievement of it.
Yeah.
Like, it is just like the laziest, most uncreative movie.
Can I revise my all underrated team? And I don't know who I'm going to take off, but I want to put Aladdin on there because Aladdin was good.
Big time disrespected this year. Big time disrespected.
Do you mean at the Oscars or in life?
I would say by fans in general. Like, I know it made $1 billion or whatever, but like people acting as if it's just another live action remake. Like, I think that this is the exception that proves the rule, or if you whatever you want to call it that, because this is my like bar, right? Look, we've been talking about a ton of recent, like Lilo and Stitch is getting a live action remake, for example, and that got announced yesterday. My bar is always like, if you have a vision like Guy Ritchie had with Aladdin, and you as a director, or at least going to give this cash cow a guise of like artistic integrity, right? Like, so my dumb brain isn't like, wow, I'm just watching this hollow Disney cash grab to make $1 billion. Then do it. Absolutely do it. As long as it's something like Aladdin and not something like Lion King.
Yeah, 100%. And I love Aladdin because you give Will Smith that role, and like Will Smith easily could have been like, fuck this, I'm going to get the bag and just really mail this in. Right. He was fucking awesome as the genie.
I love that.
Which there was like a little bit of pressure for him to be awesome as the genie, especially with Robin Williams having died. But like, he easily could have mailed that in and just cast a check, and he did not.
Like Gemini Man.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Will Smith has been doing for quite some time.
Yes.
So props to Will Smith, because Aladdin might be like the best movie that he's done in like the last 10, somewhere around the years.
Dude, we did a dive on his Rotten Tomatoes scores on LCB, and boy, are they bad over like the last decade. They are like, none of them are above like a 60. It's bad.
You're a big Star Wars guy. Where do you put Star Wars Rise of Skywalker amongst like the worst movies to be nominated for an Oscar?
High.
It's for score, right? So like score is fine. That's totally fair. I think was the one person that walked away from the theater experience. I didn't even have a honeymoon effect for this movie. Like, I walked away and I was like, oh, what a fucking. It was almost like watching a car like swerving. And just like, this movie was the overcompensating swerve to get back on track right before it was veering off a cliff and explodes.
Except they tried to overcompensate in like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just course correct.
Course correct, and again, just straight off a cliff.
It's unbelievable.
That was upsetting.
Yo, I'm looking at this Coachella lineup right now, And
Sure.
Danny Elfman getting second row.
That's crazy.
Getting second row. Geographically
He's right
on the
below
poster.
Travis Scott.
I was gonna say geographically on the poster, he's right below Travis Scott. Crazy. I would go to that though, and I think that I'll tell you what, if we should throw this score festival, because people, and we could like spell it cool. You could spell it like SKO with 2 dots over it and then an R, and people would for sure go to it because A, it's a festival and people just go to festivals. And if you say it's about film scores, they'd be like, yo, that'll make me sophisticated as fuck.
Do you play the scenes on the backdrop of the stage?
I like
they're
that.
doing the
Yeah,
score?
no sound. No
I
sound
like that.
from them, only from the actual orchestra.
Exactly.
Shout out Vampire Weekend on their Grammy-nominated Father the Bride album. They both sample Hans Zimmer and have a song produced by Ludwig Göransson. So
yeah.
is Vampire Weekend having a moment, I guess is the real question.
It's just hilarious looking at this again because Danny Elfman is above. He's in big font. He's in like size 14 font. Below him in like size 8 font is Roddy Ricch, who has the #1 Billboard top hit in the fucking country.
That's wild.
That's absurd.
All right. Well, The Irishman sucked, but this was a lovely conversation. It's funny, KenJac. You're one of my favorite people on the web, but I've told you this before. I'm sure I'm not the only one. I for sure have you muted on Instagram because the TikTok stuff freaks me out. I just can't do it. I understand that it scratches an itch for a lot of people, but it really freaks me out. But then when we talk to you, you're this is going to sound super insulting, but like you're this way smarter than us on movies, way more eloquent than either of us.
Extremely cultured.
You're really right. You're really living two lives here.
It doesn't make any sense. Somebody who's as cultured as you should not like dive into the shit that is on TikTok. But yeah, you choose to do that to yourself.
But you know what? People use social media to say, all right, I'm this I suck in real life, but on social media, I'm going to be polished as fuck. KenJac, I would say, is the opposite, where he's like this polished dude, Chargers fan, does all the right things, and he's like, all right, now that I'm on social media, I'm going to be a way worse representation for any type of human.
Look, some people do ketamine. Some people look at weird TikToks. I do both. So like there's a different sort of like vibe for each person. I just like looking at these freaky rednecks on TikTok. I'm a big fan.
That's like an all-time line in brunch history. Good shit, KenJac. Are we going to do I've talked to Jeff about this. If you guys have already done this without us, I'm not offended. Are we going to do another worst movies podcast?
I think we're going to have to sometime soon. We definitely need another crossover. We're actually going to be doing, and this is going to be fun, we're doing a really, really big Oscars show coming up soon. It's going to be a live stream, and it's going to be us, it's going to be fights, it's going to be Marty Mush, if you're a brunch guy and don't know Marty Mush, he's a phenomenally insane human being. And it's going to be PFD commenter, and essentially we're all going to be betting on the Oscars, and whoever loses is going to be drinking a blended together cocktail of garbage that you get to vote on Twitter. You are going to make the concoction throughout the course of the Oscars, and then we are going to make the loser of the night drink it. And it is a lot of gross options.
I fucking hate that. I like all the people you just named. I hate that. I like the betting aspect and everything. Why you got to make it gross?
It's gonna be so fucking gross. Like and there's some of the things like I put together the entire list of the options, and a lot of them like I'll give you like a little hint. Orange juice and toothpaste is a combination of one of them, and someone's going to throw up. If no one throws up, I consider it a failure.
I mean,
I know what's gonna happen. It's going to be right.
It's
going to be fights, and he's going to throw up. He's like your puke guy.
Fights is going to throw up even if he wins. He's going to throw up.
He's going to throw up.
He's going to watch
somebody else throw up.
Yes,
for sure.
He's going to watch one of us drinking it, and he's going to absolutely puke.
100%.
Is there a bet that you can place? Are there odds for does fights throw up one way or another? Because yes should be minus 5,000.
I know you guys are
Yes.
in with Penn Gaming now, so you should be able to bet on who throws up during this event.
I'm gonna see if we can get some action on that.
What are you betting on? What are you going to bet on? We've thrown out some of the things that we think are good bets. I mean, all of my bets. So I've bet Bong Joon-ho. I did put some money on Florence Pugh, but I legitimately put like $2 on it. But she just had some crazy odds. Little Women, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Parasite, all non-favorites, but just because they had wild odds, I took like a combined $30 to $50 and just spread them out amongst those things. But what do you think are the particularly good bets?
I don't want to put my foot in my mouth here, so this is what I'll say. Jeff has a really, really good gambling blog, I believe, coming out soon for the Oscars, where he has it all laid out, not necessarily based on who like he would be betting on or all that, but what the best odds are, like what you're going to get the best possibility of a payback on and all that. And he's way smarter with gambling than I am, so I would say look out for that blog because you'll get your best bang for your buck there. And as far as the odds are here for this for our live stream situation, it's essentially like a draft. Like we're gonna have different chances at the first pick. So like for example,
I like that.
Best Picture, I might have first pick, so I'd probably pick 1917. But then the next, let's say it's Best Director, I might have fifth pick. So
so you don't, you can't repeat.
Yeah,
You're basically
Exactly.
drafting picks. Okay.
I like that format. Again, I like all that, and I love all the people. I hate the end part of it.
It's gonna be something else.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for that. You just do wild shit over there. Very glad that you came on and did this with us.
You.
We fucked around a little bit. We talked some Elfman. We really did it all. So thank you, pal.
Of course, man. Anytime.